All right, good afternoon, everybody, and good morning to anybody from the Mountain and Pacific time zones. If you have any questions during the presentation, there is a Q&A window at the top of your window or the top of your toolbar that you can enter questions. If you don't see a Q&A window, just use the chat bubble. But at the end of the session, we will have a question and answer period. You can ask us anything you like. Good afternoon. My name is Gina Thomas. I'm the training manager at C&K Systems and your hostess for Training Bites, a digestible approach to counterpoint training. Joining me today is Marty Katz. Marty is a project lead here at C&K Systems, and he'll be on hand to answer questions as well.
Good afternoon.
I know a lot of you have merchandise that's awkward to scan, like furniture. Who's going to drag a couch up to point of sale, right? Or even jewelry tags. Jewelry barcodes, sometimes it's hard to catch the light on those scanners. So that makes just scanning items a little challenging. If you've recently upgraded your Counterpoint version, you may have also noticed that your buttons and touchscreen are very light and faded. So I'll show you how to fix that. Or maybe you've used up all the buttons on your main screen and you need more pages with more buttons. So we'll cover all that today with touchscreen designing. Amongst other things, I'll show you how to connect buttons to items of inventory. I'll show you how to create new pages. And then I'll show you some filtering tricks where you could narrow down lookups for customers or for items. So some helpful hints to start with. When you're designing a touchscreen design, I recommend being at your point of sale terminal or at a computer with the same monitor size as your point of sale terminal. Because if you're designing on a 50-inch monitor, it's not going to translate to a 17-inch monitor. You cannot be logged into point of sale and the designer at the same time on the same workstation. So you can have somebody in the designer on one workstation and other people ringing sales. That's just fine. You can only have one person access one design at a time. So you can't have two people logged into the same design designing. Somebody's going to overwrite somebody else. And if you do a lot of designing, take some time to test the designs and point of sale, make sure all the buttons work and things behave the way you expect them to behave. So before you design, you need to know what designs or design you are using. It is possible to have different point of sale designs on different workstations. So in this example, in my main store at Station 1, I'm using the touchscreen design called Combo, and you can find that under Setup Point of Sale Stations. Once you figure out what design you want to modify, then you can go to the touchscreen code editor. So that's under Setup Point of Sale Touchscreen Codes. You would just go into the touchscreen code lookup, get a list of your designs, select the design you like, click OK, and then click on the button editor. The first thing I do in touchscreen designing before I design anything is when I get into the button editor, I click on the layout tab and I save the existing design. That's just in case I make a major change and save it and I regret that change, I can reload my saved layout. And you can save your layouts as often as you like. I encourage saving them frequently. And it's as simple as clicking on save. You'll go to a folder where all your designs are saved, your touchscreen designs, and you can give it a file name. And Marty had a really helpful hint from the earlier session. You know, instead of just typing a name like touchscreen design, how about the name plus a date and a time? That way, if you're saving frequently and you want to go back to a certain point in time, you'll have a choice. So once you give the file a name, you just save and you're ready to go. Kind of 30,000 foot view. There are 5 tabs to the designer: General, Buttons, Layout, Totals, and Options. On the General tab, This is where you can change the size of buttons. You can change the style of buttons. You can also assign how many fixed rows, item rows, and columns you want. Then on the Buttons tab, this is where all the major actions are. This is where you can link buttons to inventory items. This is where you can create new pages. You can change button captions, button colors. You can add images to the buttons. The Totals tab is where you can change the totals box that's at the bottom of your screen at point of sale. And I'll show you a couple different designs. There's like 6 different designs to choose from. The Options tab only has 2 settings. One is POSIT quantity. This is a global quantity setting, meaning if you check it, anytime you scan an item or push a button to sell an item, the quantity key is automatically going to pop up looking for a quantity. It'll default to 1, but you can either accept it or put in another quantity, but that's every single item. The Allow HTML to take focus, our general recommendation is leave that unchecked, and it really only affects people who use ticket entry, not the touchscreen, ticket entry, whereas if you hover over your totals boxes, that box takes control of the screen, and that might impede scanning items. So on the Buttons tab, which is where I said earlier, this is where you do your major actions. Anytime you configure a button, it needs an action. And so you can see here, I have action item selected, which means I want this button to link up to an item in inventory. And when I select this action, I get a line down here, an item line, where I can do a lookup and select an item of inventory. And notice there's a POSIT quantity here. This is not global. This POSIT quantity is specific to the button you're designing. So you might have that one item where you tend to sell more than one, and you can enable POSIT quantity so that when that button is pushed, you'll immediately get a pop-up for quantity. Another major action is called the button page. This is in case you run out of buttons on your first page and you need to link up to another page full of buttons. So the action is button page, take me to another page of buttons. And at the bottom, you get another field that says button page, meaning, well, when you click on this button to go to another button of pages, which page of buttons do you want to go to? And in this example, I said atoms. Then I talked about filters. So there's an action called customer from lookup. And when you select that action, you get the opportunity to edit a filter. Maybe you want a button at point of sale that when you press it only shows you a list of your employees or a list of your members. So it makes it much easier to search than a full-blown customer list. The same concept from item from lookup action. When you select the action item from lookup, you'll have the opportunity to edit a filter and maybe under that button only have items from certain categories. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the software and take a look. So first I said, you might be using more than one design. So figure out which design you want to affect. And a way to check that is to check the station setting. So if you go to Setup, Point of Sale, and then you go to Stations, I'm just going to use my right-facing arrow just to scroll through my stations logically. So here at my East Store Station 1, they are using a design called Combo. And if I go to Station 2 at East, they're using the same design. But if I'm at Main Station 1, they're using the standard code. So this is the one I want to affect. Earlier I mentioned you can't be logged into point of sale and the designer at the same time, and I'll show you what happens if you are. So I'm logged into point of sale. I decide I need to add a button. So I minimize point of sale and I go to my designer, which is under Setup, point of sale, touch codes. I'm going to select my design. I'm going to click on button editor, and that's the message I get. So you can't have point of sale open on this computer where you are designing. So I'm just going to go ahead and close out of that. And I'm going to go back to my touchscreen codes. Again, I can go into my lookup. Here's a list of all my designs. I want to modify the standard design. I'm going to click OK. Then I'm going to click on button editor. And here, this is called the button editor, this pop-up here. Now, navigating the point of sale screen in the designer is different than actual point of sale. So for example, in point of sale, if you wanted to go to additional menus and you clicked on more, then you would just immediately go to the next page. The designer wants you to use navigation arrows. So if I click on more and I really want to go to the more page, I'm going to have to come back here to the button editor and use this right-facing green arrow. Then if I want to go back, I can use this left-facing arrow, or I can use the drop-down to select what page I want to go back to. So it's just not like navigating regular point of sale, just so you know. On the general page, this is where I can change the size of the buttons. So right now, lock height width is enabled, meaning when I move one slider, the other slider moves in conjunction with it. Now, I changed the button size from 93 to 74, but if you look over here on the right-hand side of the screen, nothing changed. So in order to see the change on the button editor, click on preview. So now you can see how small my buttons got. Oh, and you know what? Before I forget anything, I better save my layout. So I'm going to change this back to 93. So if you get into some designing and you're like, oh no, just go ahead and save as soon as you can. I'm going to click on save. I'm going to give it a name. I'm just going to call it Golf Store. And today's date. And then the time. Save. Oh, it doesn't like the dashes, by the way. No dashes. You can use an underscore, that'll work. Oh, it doesn't like the 1 o'clock, so let's get rid of that. Let's try that again. Golf store 10, 20, 10, 4, 23, and we'll say 1 o'clock. Now it's perfectly happy. Okay, back to the general tab. So lock width height is going to make the sliders work together. If you want to move the sliders separately, because maybe you want some really long buttons or wide buttons, you can uncheck this, and then the sliders will work independently. And then when I preview, you can see that change. Okay, I'm just going to change it back to the way it was. Okay, round corners. Let me preview that. The round corners does not work on this button style. And when I say button style, I mean this drop down here. Right now I'm using Metro. Another one is standard. Round corners doesn't work on that one either. But on gel or gradient, I'm going to preview that. So on gel or gradient, you can see now the corners are rounded. So that's all that does. But it only works for these two, gel and gradient. When it comes to the button style, when I'm in the designer itself, I like to set the button style to Metro, and here's why. When I click on a button to make a change to it, to link it to an item or a page, whatever, see how it puts black brackets around it? So I know what button I'm working on, or maybe I want to modify this button, and it puts black brackets. So that way I have a visual. That's the button I'm working on. If I change the button style to standard, and I click on a button, I don't see what button I'm actually working on unless I'm paying attention to the actions over on the button editor. So if you set it to Metro or even gel will even do it. So when I click on a button, see there's black brackets, but just something so you have a visual indication. The text position, where do you want the text? You want it at the top of the button, center of the button, or the bottom of the button? I like mine on the bottom. Here's what the top looks like. Just changes the text position. Fixed rows are rows that are static, that no matter where you navigate in point of sale, the fixed rows will always be there. I have 3 fixed rows. My fixed rows are down here at the bottom, where it says price override, void, 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 void. These are my fixed rows. And no matter where I navigate, if I go to more menu, right facing arrow to navigate, my fixed rows stay the same. If I go to the tender screen, my fixed rows stay the same. So that's a fixed row. Now, what if I, wanted to have more real estate for my item rows or my columns? Well, item rows mostly. And I want to get rid of some of my fixed rows. So I'm just going to say, you know what? I don't want 3 fixed rows. I only want 2. And then I click on preview. That's what happens. They go away. Oh, change my mind. I want those rows back. Change it back to 3. The rows don't come back. They come back blank, but they don't come back to what you had before. Another good reason for saving your layouts. Good thing I saved that layout. So I'm going to go to my layout tab. I'm going to load. I'm going to find my layout that I did at 1 o'clock. And now I've restored those fixed rows. Item rows, that's the ones going across left to right. I have 4. If I want 5, a preview, I did get a 5th row down here, but it's being cut off because of my button size. So I'm going to use my sliders here. So there's my 5th row right there. And I'm just going to change that back to 4. Columns. These are the ones that go up and down. And I have 4. So if I want 5 columns, I can have 5 columns, but then it's going to start eating into my point of sale screen. If you have small monitors, that might be an issue. So it's just taking up more space, but columns. I change that back to 4. The 6 top speak to these 6 buttons up here. So maybe I only want, maybe I want 7 instead of 6. Yeah, so there is that 7th button right there. The spacing has to deal with the spacing in between the squares. So there's horizontal spacing, vertical spacing, border spacing. If I click on preview, it just changes the spacing. I would probably leave mine at 0, again, just for real estate purposes, especially if I have small monitors. Buttons with images. Now, this is a global setting, sort of in a way. So I'm going to show you, all my fonts are white. I want all my fonts to be black. And clearly this says buttons with images. So I'm going to change this to black. I'm just going to click OK and preview. So it did change some of them, but not all of them. So, I'll try and change buttons without images. I'll change these to black. And again, some of them, but not all of them. But these do become the default on the buttons tab in the button editor. So some of them changed, some of them didn't. Maybe I'm going to have to do some manually. So if I go to buttons here, I click on a button, and then here I say use the default font, which is here. Now it changes. Now I don't know if you noticed that, but instead of clicking on preview to see the change, I just clicked over to a fresh button. I'll show you what I did. So I'm going to click on this button, use the default font, and instead of preview, I'm just going to click somewhere else. So then you can see the change. This item number field down here speaks to the size of the area at the upper right where you usually scan. I'm just going to go back and reload my last layout. Okay, the layout tab, I'm going to come back to buttons, by the way. The layout tab we talked about, this is where we save and load our layouts. This is also where we can change our panel positions. So right now, my button panel over here on the right is on the right. So maybe I want it on the left. And again, this is station specific, not user specific. So that's what it looks like when my panel's on the left. And then my top position's kind of crowded over there. Maybe I want that on the right. Which it didn't move, probably because I have too many buttons. The fixed buttons position. Remember I said my fixed rows were these 3 bottom rows? Well, maybe I want them to be on the top. So if I use this drop down, preview, now my fixed rows are on the top. So no matter where I navigate, my fixed rows are always on the top and they're always there, even if I go to different screens. Okay, so I'm just going to reload my layout so you can see the total benefit of saving your layouts. The totals tab. This is where I'm going to change the way this, see how this box is big and bulky? And sometimes that happens when you go into your designer. It's just like this, kind of gets in the way. If you want it to be the default size, just right click on your title bar. Just go to default size, and it's a little more manageable. At least I can see more. Okay, so on the totals, this is where you have the 6 different designs where you can pick a different total at the bottom, different look. So if I go into this ellipsis here are the different designs. So right now I'm just looking at the standard design. I want to take a look at this split layout. Let's see what that looks like. And so I just click on preview. And so here's what it looks like. When you load these different total boxes, sometimes they fall off the bottom of the screen and you need to raise them up because they'll be cut off at point of sale. So it's pretty easy. There's this slider right here called HTML height. So if you just slide that over to the right, that'll raise the box up. So that was a little bit too high. And even sometimes I find in the designer, it looks perfect, like this is a perfect height, but then when I actually log into point of sale, it's still cut off a little bit. So you kind of just got to play with it. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and reload my layout. Get back my original totals. Options, again, pause at quantity is global. It will pause for quantity every time you select an item. So let's come back to buttons now, because this is where we do all our work. The easiest thing to do is to copy and paste buttons. You can copy and paste within a page, or to other pages, or to other designs. And here's how easy it is. Click, notice there's black brackets, so I know what I'm working on. Copy, click, paste. That's simple. But what if I want to paste it to another page? Or maybe I want to get something from another page and paste it to the front page. So if I go to more, use my right-facing arrow, maybe I want to add this to my front page. Click, copy, go back a screen, or use the drop-down to go to main. Click, paste. You can even copy buttons to other designs. So right now I have the add drop ship order line copied. I'm just going to exit from here and I'm going to say yes to saving changes because I can reload the layout. I'm going to go to a different design. I'm going to go to my combo EMV design. I'm going to find a blank page or a blank button and paste. So while you can copy buttons between designs, you cannot copy pages between designs. That would be a nice feature. It's just not available. I'm going to go back to my standard design. Something else good to know about copying buttons is that if you copy a button, like here, I'm going to add drop ship line, I'm going to copy, and I decide to paste it up here, it overwrites that button. It doesn't just hide it or cover it, it overwrites it. Okay, so now I'm going to clear this button because that's another really easy thing you could do. You can clear buttons. So if I click on this and I want to clear the button, thinking I'll uncover the delivery fee button, it doesn't. it completely overwrites it. Okay, so that's copy paste. Very, very easy to do. I'm going to reload my layout so I get back to where I was. Another easy thing to do is to link buttons to items. So I click on a blank button. My action is item. I'm just typing an I on my keyboard. I can give it an image. Images are kind of tricky, by the way. And frankly, they're so teeny tiny that sometimes it's hard to make them out. There's actually another way to get images at point of sale. This is just one of them. But if you want to put images on your buttons, they have to be stored in your top level directory, under your company folder, under a configuration folder, and a folder called images. And I'm just going to grab this one image here. Now you can see it's a JPEG if you look really closely, and it's 445 by 545. I'm going to select it. And I'm going to say open. Okay. Now I can give it a caption at this point, but I don't know what item I'm picking yet or what I called the item in inventory. So I usually save that for last. Now I'm going to come down to item down here. I'm going to go into my lookup and I'm going to choose, I don't know if I have any ice cream. Let's see. Ice cream. I do believe I do. There's some ice cream. So now that I know what I've picked, now I feel a little more confident about the caption. I'm going to call it ice cream. I can give it a hint. Sell ice cream. This is a flyover hint. So if my people were to fly over that box, let me preview it first. If they fly over this box, they see the hint, sell ice cream. I could give it a shortcut. Maybe this is something I sell a lot and I just want to press one button to sell it. So I'll give it F7. Oh, it's there, but the font is white, so you can hardly see it. So I'm going to change the color of this button. Now I can stick to this color palette here. That's fine. So now you can see my shortcut F7. All right. Maybe I want more choices in a color palette. You can come down here to Other. You can select a color. If you don't like how, dark it is or how light it is, you can use this slider here. You can even add it to your custom colors. I should have been on another square. Let's add this one. So you see how I'm doing that? I just click on a square, add this to my custom colors. You can change the font. Now remember, the default font is coming from here. So if I want to just change it for this one button, I can just go into this ellipsis here and I can choose whatever I like. Maybe I want it bold and 12 and black. And that's what it would look like. If I want to posit quantity, every time I sell ice cream, I always sell more than one. Enable posit quantity. Maybe you always sell two. So you can make the default two. So when that button is pressed, Counterpoint will automatically pop up a quantity key that will default to 2. So that's linking a button to an item. But you can see I don't have a lot of real estate here. So I might need to have more buttons that go to other pages to do more menu-driven selling. First, I'm just going to go ahead and reload my old layout, the one that I saved earlier. Ignore the silly message. Let's exit from there, and I'm just going to say, no, I don't want to save my changes and go back in. And now I'm going to reload that layout. See how I've got the dropship line back? Okay, so now it's all beautiful. So another thing you can do, maybe you're having a promotion of a certain grouping of items. And again, they're too awkward to barcode. No one's going to drag them up to point of sale. So let's say I'm going to have a patio furniture blowout this weekend. And I just want to make it easy for my people to sell. So you can actually have even like kind of decision trees in your designer. So I created a button called patio furniture, and I'm going to show you how I set this up. I'm going to show you, how to get to this setup. So here's the finished product. I wanted a button where I could sell my patio furniture. So my action for the button was button page. And then I created a new page called patio set, just by clicking on New Page and giving it a name. And then when I use my right-facing arrow, so if I click on this at point of sale, what happens is I go to this page. And in this page, I can sell tables, chairs, and umbrellas. So I have more than one table. So I clicked on a button. I made another button page, but I linked this button page to another page called Tables, so that when my point of sale people get here, these are the tables they can sell. And then when they're ready to sell some chairs, they could click on this patio sets button. It'll return them back to the patio set page, where they could click on chairs, go to the chairs page, sell any one of these chairs, go back to patio sets, maybe select an umbrella, and then sell any one of these umbrellas. And then when they're done, just go home, go back to the main page, or use your drop down here anyways. So it was a button that connected to another page of buttons. And each one of these buttons connected to a page where I could sell individual items. So let me show you how I got here. I go to the main page. I'm going to create the same exact setup. It's just going to call it something. I'm going to call it like outdoor furniture. So I'm going to need a page to connect to. So this is going to be the button that connects to another page. So I can either set up the page now or I can set it up after I set up the button. It does not matter. But I'm just going to go ahead and say new page, and I'm going to call it outdoor furniture. So now I have an outdoor furniture page. There's nothing on it yet, but it is a page. I'm going to go back to the main page. Now I'm going to take this button and I'm going to say, I want you to connect to the outdoor furniture page. So my action is going to be button page. Take me to another page of buttons. And then down here at the bottom where it says button page, this is not the page I want to go to. I want to go to the page called outdoor furniture. Okay. So now at point of sale, when someone clicks on this button, they'll go to another page called outdoor furniture, but I'm not done. Let's give it a caption. Outdoor furniture. And let's just give it some type of color. If I go down here, I'll just choose one of my custom colors. Preview. And outdoor furniture. So now when my people press this button, they go to this page. Well, this page is blank. That's not helpful. That's okay. So I want to have a button that links to a page of tables. So again, I can choose the button first and say, make me a button page. But down here, I don't have a page for outdoor tables yet. So new page, outdoor. So you can see it doesn't matter the order, whatever you're comfortable with. Okay, so now I'm at my outdoor tables page. And this button, I need it to link to the list of tables. So I'm just going to say button page. Down here, I'm going to say link to the tables, outdoor tables. But now I need to give it some type of caption, tables, and I'll give it a color, and I'll preview, and there you are. Now, I'm going to go to the outdoor tables page, and this is where I'm going to link. I'll just clear that button. Looks like I lost my way there. Now I'm at the outdoors tables page, and I'm going to link a button to a particular table. So my action is going to be item. And I don't know what it's called, so I'm going to do an item lookup first because I want to call it something where it's, called in my lookup. So I'm going to call it patio table for 4. I'm going to give it a color. And I'm just going to take a look at it. Now, here's a helpful hint. I have lots of patio tables. I have patio table for 4, for 6, for 8, for 10. And rather than create each button from scratch, use your copy and paste. So copy, paste, paste. Now, I just made the same button, 3 times, but here's what I can do. I can go to this second one. Now I know I want to call it table for 6. I'll just change the caption, and then I'm going to go to the item lookup, and I'm just going to change the link. And I'm going to do the same thing for here. Oh, I forget whether it's 8 or 10, so let me go do my lookup. And it's for 10. So I'm going to change my caption to 10. And then if I want to make sure that my people can get back to the page where they have all the outdoor furniture, I can click on a button and I can say return to the button page of outdoor furniture. Okay, and again, I can't see anything, so I'm going to have to change the color of that button and change the caption, return to outdoor furniture. Okay, so let's test that. Let's go back to the main tab. See, I think I broke a link here, so I'm just going to check everything. Outdoor furniture should connect to the outdoor furniture page. It is not at the outdoor furniture page. Outdoor tables. There we go. There's the outdoor tables. But I really wanted it to go to an outdoor furniture page. So let's go ahead, outdoor furniture. This is where I said go to tables, but down here it says chairs. So let me make that tables. So it's outdoor tables. Outdoor tables. Give it a color. Let's make it pink. And then that will take me to all my tables. Okay, so had I tested that before I checked my links, it would not have worked at point of sale. But I'm pretty sure it will now, so I am going to test it. Oh, and I don't want that to say button page. Return to outdoor furniture. That makes more sense. So I'm going to save my layout. And again, I could do a completely different name with the same date, a different time. I'm just going to go ahead and restore the one I did at 4. And then I'm going to get an overwrite message. That's normal. I'm going to say yes to saving. When you get away from that prompt and you come back to the touchscreen codes screen, you should save again. But if you forget and you click on the X, Counterpoint will prompt you. Okay, so let's log into point of sale. Test our buttons, make sure they work. Okay, so here's my outdoor furniture. Takes me to my outdoor tables. And here are my tables that I can sell. And then when I want to return, theoretically, I would have my umbrellas and my chairs here. So I can show you from the one that I made earlier. Patio furniture. I can select tables, chairs, or umbrellas. So I want to select a table. Then I want to go back, go to chairs and select some chairs. Go back to patio sets and select an umbrella, and then go home. So that's how that all works. And again, I've seen some really clever designs using the touchscreens. Keep in mind, it is all full price selling, but like a pool company, what size pool do you want? What kind of liner do you want? What kind of accessories do you want? What kind of diving board do you want? That can all be configured through your touchscreen designer. A couple of other things worth noting about touchscreen design is I mentioned earlier about those filters that you could, maybe have just an employee filter. So I configured one here. I clicked on an empty button and I said the action was customer from lookup. And then I came down here to edit the filter and I made the category employee, but here's all my different categories. And then I clicked OK. So now at point of sale, when somebody clicks on this button, they'll just have a list of employees to choose from. So I can do the same thing with an item lookup. And I've seen some clever things with this, particularly around the holidays, like 5 items under $25 type of thing. So the action is going to be item from lookup and call it whatever you like. Maybe this is just golf items. Or again, top 50 picks, 10 items under $10, whatever the case may be. And then down here at edit filter, in my example, I just want my golf items to show when I use that lookup. And I'm going to click OK. And if I preview this, again, golf items is in that white font. I can't see anything. So I'm just going to choose a color. I don't know if that's much better. That's very, very bright. Let's choose this one, a little easier on the eyes. So now let's test it at point of sale. So I'm going to save changes, or it could have saved my layout, but I'll still get this prompt to change or to save. I'm going to save again. I'm going to log into touchscreen. Okay, so when I go into my employee lookup, that's all I see in here, just a list of my employees. So maybe you could have one for like your members or your military or your senior citizens. Then when I go to this button where I configured it just to look at golf items, so all I see in the lookup are golf items. Now, these buttons, these filtered buttons, just to look at employees, does not alter your regular customer lookup. That's all still there. And this golf items button where I just looked for golf items does not alter your regular item lookup. So those are pretty handy. A couple of other just good things to know because I've seen it in support a lot. For whatever reason, sometimes people come to this buttons tab, and here we're looking at the main page. This is the first page we see when we log into point of sale. Somebody will uncheck that, the default. They'll just uncheck it. And if I preview, I don't see anything in the preview. So I don't know anything has changed. But boy, are you in for a surprise. Or your salespeople are. So if I log into point of sale, and then everyone panics because we uncheck the default. Now I can still go to more and see my more menus, but I can't see the default main menu because I unchecked it. But, fortunately, it's an easy fix. So I'll just go back to touch codes, my button editor. Go to buttons. I'm going to find my main page, and I'm going to enable default. Another thing that I see happen is for some reason, somebody will uncheck allow item entry. Now look up here to the upper right. Okay, this is where we scan items. So if I preview this, you can see how it disappears. But if I'm not paying attention, or I think that's, like, oh, I don't know why it disappeared, you'll find out when you get into point of sale. So I'm going to save this. And again, I bring it up because I've seen it. I'm going to log into touchscreen. And you can see where I typically scan barcodes is just gone. And the only way to bring it back is through the designer. So let's close out of here because it's an easy fix, of course. I'm going to go back to my buttons, allow item entry, and now it's back. One last note is something I call button fatigue. If you do decide to configure your screens, to be more selling driven rather than scanning barcodes driven, be careful of having to click on too many buttons, too many pages. Your salespeople might get a little grumpy. Okay, so I'm not going to save what I've done so far. And let's go back here. And we'll go from this slide. Okay, so hopefully after today's session, you know how to link a button to an item, make selling a little faster for those awkward things. You know how to make a new page of buttons and how to link a button from one page to your new page of buttons. And hopefully you learned something about redefining some filters as well. When you get your recording on Friday, the link to the recording, there will be a survey attached. We always appreciate your feedback. If you want to fill out the survey today, you can go to our website, www.cksystem.com/training bites survey. If you want customized training, customized to your business, your data, give me a call, domain number extension 3, or you can call email training@cksystem.com. Happy to schedule an appointment. Makes more sense when you have your own data rather than my golf store. Just a reminder, in case you were not aware, October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So we want everyone to be cyber aware. You, your associates, your family, your friends. This year's focus is on multi-factor authentication. That's fancy for signing into an account more than one way to prove it's really you. The other emphasis is on passwords, complex passwords, password managers to store your passwords instead of Post-it notes. Also, the importance of regular software updates. And here's one that's super important, is how to recognize phishing. This is probably hands down the most common way hackers get into a system is somebody clicking on a link they shouldn't have clicked on, somebody seeing an email that has a sense of urgency and they panic and they just start clicking. So we want to recognize that. There's a great website. It's at staysafeonline.org. The link is here at the bottom of the slide. They have videos, they have tip sheets, just things you can share with everyone in your organization or at home to stay cyber aware. Next month, November 1st, we're going to talk about customer relationship management. So the holidays are coming up. We're going to see new customers. We might want to retain them and contact them in the future. I'm going to teach you about leveraging profile fields and notes on customer records. And you may not know this, but it is possible to define multiple shipping addresses for one customer. So that's pretty handy, especially if you have a customer that ships to family and friends a lot. You can have all those addresses right on file. I'm also going to show you how to set up the loyalty program and some pretty simple customer price rules. And with that, let's check the Q&A and see if we have any questions.
Yeah, and you might want to open up your Counterpoint. And Hope would like to know how to create a new touchscreen code by copying from an existing one.
You know, that's actually a really good question. And I was afraid you were going to say, Hope would like to learn how to create one from scratch.
I
Because that
hope
would be
no one wants to do
quite the
that.
task, right? That would be quite the task. Okay, so if you just go to touchscreen codes, and right here on the touchscreen code line, you just type in what you want to call the new design. You're limited to 10 characters. Press your enter key and then copy from with two little pieces of paper there, and then copy from one of your other ones. And that's going to copy the description. So you can just change that description. And then when you go into your button editor, you can strip out things that you don't need. Add things that you do, like allow item entry.
That's an
Okay,
important
so
one.
that's an important one. Yes, it is. And then, of course, you know, once you do your designing, go ahead and save your layout, give it a name, date, and time. It's a good question. I'm
Yeah,
surprised nobody asked
one
that at
of
the first session.
Yeah, and I didn't think about it, but why wouldn't you want to have that item lookup on that main screen? And one of the things that I thought of is I've set up for customers, they want to start with the sales rep. Every ticket needs to start with the sales rep before they start adding any items. So on the main screen, I just have 3 or 4 buttons that say enter sales rep. And that's on the main screen, and there's no item lookup there. So it forces the cashier to enter the sales rep, and then it goes on to the next screen. So it's sort of there is a reason why you wouldn't want that item lookup on a particular screen.
Yeah, I would
So
agree with that. But
yeah,
by and
but
large,
it's
in general,
rare.
most people do. Yes,
It's
exactly.
rare. Yeah. All right. Well,
Any other
um,
questions?
I don't see anything in. I see that was in the chat. Let's take a look at the Q&A. And no, I don't see anything in the Q&A.
No, I don't either. Yeah, just
Okay.
old ones.
Just the same
Okay.
old ones.
Yeah, well, I appreciate everyone's time today. Thanks so much for attending. Be on the lookout for your link on Friday. And hopefully I see you November the 1st for customer relationship management. And don't forget, be cyber aware. It's October.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.